few hands in, we're dealt 7-6 offsuit in the under the gun straddle. The button raises to 50. He's a pro from New Zealand who's run up a big stack. This falls into the bottom of our straddle defend range. We call for 30 more. It's heads up, and we're out of position. The flop comes 9-5-4 with 2 clubs. We've got an open-ended straight draw and a backdoor flush draw that's just slightly stronger than my girlfriend's math skills. I check. The button says, "This isn't a Walgreens in San Francisco. I'm not letting you have anything for free." Then bets 50. It's too soon to fold right now. I call to see if we can drill an 8 or a 3. The turn is the jack of hearts, no help to us. I check. The situation is getting worse for us. The young fan of the All Blacks bets 150. The board here is an interesting one. We'll actually have plenty of 2-pair combos like Jack 5 and Jack 4 suited, as well as 9-5 and 9-4 suited that the button won't have. I don't like the idea of calling 150 to try and spike now, one of only 3 outs that'll give us the nuts. I also don't like giving up. I put in the check raise to 500. The opponent takes out a kiwi from his backpack, where I assume there are dozens more, and bites into it like an apple. He folds while saying that he's a hippopotamus and his lyrics are bottomless. I don't even know what that means or how that's applicable in this scenario, but I'm happy to get the semi-bluff through with only 7 high. Maybe the opponent had to draw himself because he asks,
"What was it?"
5 spades.
5 spades.
We would have bricked our straight draw. Our aggressiveness pays off. We're $145 away from getting unstuck when we're dealt ace-10 offsuit at 7:55 in the morning. There's a double straddle on. We're playing 5-10, 20, 40 this hand. I raise to 100 from the button. The small blind is a viewer who's in town for a convention. He came over from the 2-5 game to sit on my left and destroy my world. He calls. We're heads up in position. The flop comes king, queen, jack with 2 clubs. We flop the nuts. Small blind checks. I'm a good guy, so I give him a free card just this one time. I check back to induce a bluff, or at least put some doubt in the opponent's mind that we're strong. The turn is the 4 diamonds. We still have the best hand possible. The small blind checks again. We can't allow free cards to come out forever. I bet 120. The opponent has seen me bluff too many times, so let me take down the pot with a single post flop bet. 1 chip at a time. The small blind calls. He's in for a world of hurt. The river is the 7 of clubs. The flush draw gets there. We no longer have the nuts. In fact, we're significantly downgraded. The small blind checks. I don't get the sense he's that strong. The way he called me on the turn made it seem like he doesn't believe that I've got anything. That's what I was hoping it would look like after I checked back the flop. Now I want to make it look like I'm trying to buy the pot. I bet 350. It isn't too large in comparison to the pot, but it's about 3 times the amount that I bet on the turn. The opponent is pondering what to do. It looks like he'll be folding or calling. I'm rooting for a call. We get it.
I call. I don't say call. Okay.
We turn over the straight. The small blind shows pocket 3s. He didn't realize that we had a straight. He thought that we had ace high and 3s were good. The flop check likely made us an extra $470 because we got called extremely light on the 2 subsequent streets. We're way above the even mark now. We've made a long trek from Paintown through Stuckville to Profit Land. We're up 500 at the moment. It's even easier with ace-king offsuit the very next hand. We're under the gun and raised at 50. The hijack calls, the cutoff calls, then the small blind 3 bets at 250. She's a newer player, but she's been very aggressive so far. I don't want to call and potentially have the hijack and cutoff call behind me. Ace-king does much better in a heads-up pot, particularly in position. I 4-bet to 700. The hijack is no longer interested. He folds, the cutoff folds. The small blind still has unreliable dial-up internet and never received the memo that she's supposed to let go of her hand. She calls for 450 more. I guess we're going to have to do this the hard way. There's 1520 in the pot, and effective stack sizes are 2200. The flop comes 10-9-3 rainbow. We brick it. The small blind checks. The opponent should have folded most ace-queen combos pre-flop to our 4-bet. She likely has ace-king or an overpair at minimum. With only 1.5 times the size of the pot left in our stack, I don't think that we can get anything better than ace-king to fold that the opponent has left in her range. I check back. I'm pretty much going to give up on this. The turn is another 10. The small blind checks. I check back once more. The river is a third 10. It isn't going to check through on this street. The small blind shoves for 2200 effective. She has us slightly covered. I'd like to call badly because I don't completely believe that she has us beat. We have removal for aces and kings and didn't get 5-bet pre-flop, so really the hands that she's representing are something like queens or jacks. I suppose she could still have aces since flatting the 4-bet with a small stack to pot ratio isn't that uncommon. There's a decent chance that we're just chopping or losing since I've played this face up. I hate folding and I hate getting bluffed. I'm trying to do better at not calling off my entire stack though. I'm going to keep staying patient to look for a better spot. I fold. We ordinarily wouldn't know if it's a good laydown, but if we freeze this one frame here, as the opponent is returning her cards to the dealer, and we zoom in as far as we can, we see that the small blind definitely has at least one ace. Then if you look really closely at the second card, we can see what looks like, and maybe I'm wrong here, but it appears to be Elvis giving John Lennon the finger. Yeah, I don't know. Let me know in the comment section if you see that too, or maybe I'm hallucinating. By the way, no idea what the second card is at all. Part of me wants to think it's another ace, but way more likely than not, I got bluffed off a chop, or the opponent got me with ace-queen. It's okay, I've been bluffed before, a few hours ago actually, by 9-4 suited. I'll get bluffed again. A few minutes later, we pick up pocket kings in the hijack. The player who cracked our aces earlier limps in for 20. We get another shot at him. I raise to 70. The opponent on my left calls in the cutoff. The limper calls for 50 more. We're going 3 ways to the flop. It comes King Jack 7 rainbow. We have top set against multiple opponents. The middle position player checks. I reach for chips and bet 110. I'm not sure what these dudes have, but both opponents call. I'm guessing they have straight draws because there aren't many kings that are unaccounted for. The turn is the 6 of clubs. It's a great safe card. We still have the nuts. The middle position player checks. I want to get value, but need to make sure that I don't bet too much to blast people off their hands. I suppose that I don't need to worry about that too much because the player on my left is the guy who called my river bet with pocket 3s earlier. He likes calling me with anything. I bet 320. The cutoff may not even have anything as good as 3s because he's more apprehensive about calling in this hand than he was with a pair below the board. Eventually he calls. That's what I wanted to see. The middle position player takes inventory of his chips. He could be considering a raise or potentially a shove for 2100 on top. I wouldn't be able to get my chips in fast enough. Instead, the middle position player disappoints a few 100,000 people by folding. It's down to heads up, and we're out of position. The river is the 4 of clubs, the backdoor flush gets there, and so do some obscure straight draws. We still probably have the best hand. The most obvious draw, which was Queen 10, is missed. If my opponent had a flush draw on the turn, he would have called the bet for 320 quicker like he did when he had 9-8 of hearts against us. I'm not worried about clubs getting there, especially because we have the king of clubs. The cutoff has 1500 in his stack. Let's see if we can get him to call us light once more. The opponent folds. If he'd made a straight, that would have been a complete disaster for us. The opponent is a viewer. Because of that, we show him that we weren't bluffing him. We have a very strong hand. The cutoff confirms that he folded Queen 10.
I wish ace on 9, ace on 9.
We're almost back to even. A half hour goes by, then we pick up ace 10 offsuit on the button. The girl who probably bluffed me when I had ace-king in the 4-bet pot raises to 60 from the cutoff. I can mix in calls or 3-bets in this scenario. I call, we're heads up in position, the flop comes ace-10 3 rainbow, we've got top 2 against an aggressive opponent, she down bets at 50. There's very little to be worried about on this board other than Broadway draws. We're in position and really don't need to make our move yet. I call to give the opponent false hope that she's going to win this hand. The turn is the 9 of diamonds, that's a good one. I just didn't want to see any king, queen, or jack. The cutoff increases the bet size to 150. Now is when we'll be trying to pile in as much money as we can. I raised to 500. I told you that the opponent is aggressive. She lives up to that description with a re-raise to 1600. There's a small part of me that's concerned that she flopped her turn to set. We just have so much of the board covered though, it's very unlikely that she'll have a set of aces or 10s since there's only one combo of each of those holdings. She could still have plenty of hands that we're beating like ace-9, ace-3, 10-9, or a combo draw like queen-jack of diamonds, or even ace-3 of diamonds. If we're beat, it's a cooler. If we're ahead, we need to protect our equity and get the money in now before a scare card comes out on the river. We've got 3,000 total, and we're going for it.
Come on.
We don't exactly get snap called, but the opponent calls. It's a pot well over $6,000. Our fate is in the deck's hands.
Just go once. What do you want to do?
So show me, okay? No?
Sure, I'll show you.
The opponent shows that she has pocket 3s for bottom set. It's my worst nightmare. I somewhat suspected it, but I don't feel bad about getting it in because I'm never getting away from the situation, particularly against this opponent.
Yeah. It's up to you.
The big game. Which one like?
It doesn't really matter. I mean, you're probably it's really unlikely that I win anyway, so it's up to you. But I don't really care. I mean, we can go twice. Seems fine.
Okay, start.
2 times.
Okay?
Sure. Sure.
Two times.
Speak again.
We agree to run it twice. I'm fully expecting to lose both runouts. I've got only 4 outs total. What happens next is something that I've never seen before.
Wow.
The first river is another 10. We boat over boat the opponent to scoop half the pot, and for some reason, the cutoff is ecstatic. I've never seen someone so thrilled to lose. It's hilarious, but she's really just happy that she ran it twice. There's still some chance that she gets scooped. She doesn't though. The river is the deuce. We get extremely lucky to not get torched, and both of us are relatively happy.
Jeez, all right, we'll top it up.
Choke.
I play for another half hour and take down a couple of smaller pots for this game that aren't that significant compared to that ace-10 hand. We get unstuck, even though I probably should have lost several thousand this session. It's time to go home.